first of all, thank you. Thank you for being here with us at Beth Adam, and it was a pleasure to hear you speak this morning in honor.
It was great being here, and I really appreciate the opportunity.
When you speak to students, you mentioned that you speak to a lot of different groups. What do you hope they learn from this? What do they hope they take away from hearing your story?
A couple of things. Number one, that they never forget that the Holocaust took place. I also hope they'll share it with a number of people. I started talking about, every time I talk to, whether it's adults or students, ask each one to relate the story to at least 4 people. Also hope that they could change their attitude if they have to change their attitude. I often talk, you hear a lot about bystanders. Unfortunately, there were too many people that were standing by and not doing anything. In Denmark, it was a little different, and we're trying to corner the new phrase, upstander, trying to get it accepted at Webster's dictionary. And I want more people to stand up for what they think is right.
What's your definition of an upstander?
An upstander is somebody who's not afraid of taking action. Action is a favorite word of mine. The Danish resistance people, the Danish police, they stood up. The Danish police helped a number of Danish Jews escape to Sweden. There were doctors that were hiding Jewish people in hospitals under false names, and they had to register in the false names. They were definitely standing up. It was very, very dangerous. The resistance movement, they were standing up, and a number of them were murdered, they were killed. A number of them ended up in a camp. Few of them survived, and some of them had to escape to Sweden.
But how did you cope with what you experienced? How did you deal with the memories of the past?
I think I dealt with it surprisingly well. I think my mother was part of that, because right after the war, as most survivors, we didn't talk about it within the family. And when other children wanted to ask me or some of her friends, she always said, ask her, don't ask Steen. So we talked very little about it, and you never forget it, but you don't think about it every day to day.
And do you remember your parents trying to explain to you what was going on?
I don't think they explained it. I don't think they had time. They were so shocked. I don't think they had time. I'm not so sure. I didn't understand what was going on. I think they were totally shocked. It's strange to think back. Why hadn't they been warned? Now, I'm not holding it against them. Why hadn't they heard about what happened in Norway the year before, what happened in Poland, and what happened in Germany? But communications were so different. Today, a second after it happened, the Russians going into Ukraine, we know it the second after. But those days, you didn't know that.
Can you talk a little bit about what you remember? I know it's not a good memory, but from after your arrest, and you said one of your vivid memories is of the cattle car,
Yes.
experience. What do you remember from that?
I remember a lot of shouting by the Germans. They wanted to hurry us up. They weren't good human beings. They were pushing people into the cattle car. I remember the darkness, the smell in the cattle car, and I was frightened. I was very frightened, because I still didn't, being 8 years old, didn't understand fully what was going on, didn't know, like the adults, where we were going to end up. So fright, uncertainty and fright.
And what about arriving in Terezin or Theresienstadt? Did you?
I remember some of it. Some of it I don't remember. I do remember when we got to the loft, my mother and I never thought about it at that time. But later on, I often wondered how I was able to stay with my mother.
And you stayed with your mother, and your father was separated, if I understand correctly.
That's correct.
Did you see him
I would see my father from time to time, but not an awful lot, because he worked during the day. But I did see him, but not a lot.
Why do you think the Danes were so committed to ensuring its Jewish community wouldn't be destroyed?
I think it's part of the Danes' culture. They felt sorry for the Jewish people. I'm not saying there wasn't any anti-Semitism in Denmark. There was, but very, very little. And they really, they were upstanders. They stood up, and it was very natural for them to help. They would never think any otherwise. Some of them, it was very dangerous.
How would you describe your Jewish identity today? And has it changed?
Oh, I think it's changed a great deal. When I started writing my memoirs, I started to get more of a Jewish identity. I think I feel it much stronger. I feel the Jewish heritage, whatever you want to call it, much more today, and probably stronger and stronger each time I talk about the event. And I do a lot of research, I do a lot of reading, and I'm on the internet. So I think it has changed dramatically. And I think that's very healthy. I would not have expected that the way I grew up, but it has changed dramatically. Make sure that you relate, everybody who sees this tape, relate it to as many people as possible, because it's horrifying what's going on out in the world today. There's genocide now in Syria, it's been in Rhodesia, and many other places. And it's very sad for a person who has been involved and experienced firsthand a Holocaust and lost my father. It's very hard to do that, to see that. So let's never forget it.